speed that up. There we go. So I'll run to, sorry, the volume is a little quiet before, so we're just redoing this. So this is our video response to Tila Tequila by myself, Mike Hansberg, the Prince Admiral, and Baby, and you know all that. And then we got like you had a response, you had something about the Illuminati that made me kind of curious as to what's going on. I thought maybe a video response would be fun. So here, so we did. I've already drawn 3 cards, and you don't have to trust me on the order. So we went with present, Illuminati, Magus, some Aleister Crowley Thoth Tarot deck because I like the artist. Aleister Crowley's an inspiration to some people, not necessarily me. Interesting character. Yeah. There we go, Ace of Discs. Okay, so yeah, maybe we'll get a golden one in here somehow. We didn't fit that in. We can come up. So, maybe people will cross-post a bit and say what they think about the Illuminati. I noticed there was a couple other people who had Illuminati issues, and there's kind of a thread emerging there on MySpace. So anyways, it's basically a definition of the Illuminati. I just had something open, but we were looking it up, and everybody kind of has their own definition. The high school definition is different than a military definition, and a university definition is different than a priesthood definition. There's metaphysicists always talk for hours about what are these people? Are they real? Did they exist? And what I was finding, quickly on Google is you find it's like a religious order that existed, 1500s, something like that. And they were seers who were ahead of their time, and they had a group, and that sort of thing sounds about right. You can look it up just as easily as we can, but some of them are captured and accused of being heretics, and they seem to think they could talk to Christ and other people directly, and I've met some people who can. So I wouldn't say that these people, well, with the essential, if you hear a guy saying, "Oh, I believe in God," and he's talking to me right now, usually he's the craziest guy around, But some people who are higher geniuses and seers have sort of a way of, putting somebody around them, or actually being able to channel briefly something from the future or a different dimension. Something that I often call the singularity, which is sort of your Zen happy space where your spirituality connects to the future. Something I call like a primal or final exarch form of yourself as the most evolved person or being or soul you could become. And to me, conventional idea of heaven is a bit limiting. I'm the person who would like to rebuild heaven. I don't think heaven's good enough.
You've gone. Gone for a long time.
I would say if we had heaven now, it might not look as good as it did 2,000 years ago. And things have changed, philosophy has changed, and if heaven's been there for that long, how is it updated, and why, and when, and does it include aliens? I have all these wonderful questions. I have a high rank of Archon that I don't really use within the Anglican, Catholic, and Protestant churches all over the place, and some of the Orthodox recognize it, and which basically means I have a sort of part of an angelic being to me that's been recognized. Anyways, we can talk about it further if you wanted to sometime. So anyways, we're going to go on about you now, the Magus, and I'm just talking about Illuminati in general, Tia, because and you might be wondering why I care, because you invited me on your first show and I had to turn you down at the time. It's not very well. and I had I chose somebody who might want to stand in. He's a pretty hilarious guy. Um, and we kind of talked about I think maybe a little in 2012, not quite sure. Anyways, which mages figures surrounded by various items. One we'll see is a sword. Another, uh, they could be. These are items around you. When you're thinking about the Illuminati, you're feeling that there's a magical working going on, and there's all these things around you. And sometimes you have a lot of things available to you. Drugs, knives can represent a threat. Something that's a bit like Aladdin's, lamp. The threat of new religion, but sometimes that new religion turned, and as if is every lamp Aladdin's lamp. But I think there's also, there's a glow of earth sort of spirit in there. That's there's something rewarding in there, and I think you have to be careful about how you react to what surrounds you. Maybe it's an internal thing as much as external. Sort of knowing what the Illuminati are and if they're following you and stalking you, and if you've received actual phone calls and intimidation and from the same people repeatedly. I'd talk to police and higher ups who you think could deal with something like that. But I mean, you could. I don't think it's at that level from what I'm hearing. I may be a little strung out when you posted. I'm not sure. I'm probably reading a little into that. But a lot of people have seen the Illuminati, heard things about them, and they do operate in the world. And generally, if they're a rogue agent, they're a serial killer, not to kill people, and I wouldn't mess with them. But I don't think this is what's necessarily going on with you. I see that your fame is at a very high level, and you have the highest hits on MySpace out of anyone. Apparently, I didn't know that until I looked at your interesting videos. I always loved your Shot at Love and other videos you've done. And, the whole thing with Illuminati may be like an expectation of certain surroundings that is lesser and lesser. Maybe you've deliberately avoided addictions and cultures of abuse and control, or the gang element that always gets in with the upper class and people are doing things with celebrities and so on. And maybe it's maybe your level now is a little lower, and you're a fish in water, and you're quite happy with how you were, and now you're a little out of your water, and you're expecting to react to the same things and constant daily things, kind of like having a best friend, and then you lose that best friend, and you say, well, maybe I should find another one after a few months of just feeling absolutely bored, but relatively, you've almost done exactly the same thing. I mean, it's something that I face sometimes, as we get older. People are less willing to connect on a constant basis. Anyways, we'll talk about your future. And to me, I'm going to use the representation of Queen of Wands to talk about that. I see a staff, which is like a Thrace, and that sort of Dionysian quality. He's perhaps related to sexuality, sexual prowess, or the mob, or actual Dionysian ritual, or rites of fertility. And the cat I'd call a spotted leopard, or perhaps an old ocelot of some kind. Old cat, a hunter, um, who and the queen image is a sign of aggression, power over fire, fire being emotion, action, the height of life, summer, so you're the summer queen, and you're, at the height of your life. And I notice the echo between the two. You can look at the heads. There's initially you might see a similar sort of shape there, and they're both Egyptian in nature, and you have the eagle over your head. And in this one, I would say the image would represent you, most likely, or central figure that's around you could possibly be another idea that they're more the queen than you are. But that's the sense I get is you're the head of the world, and that's the eagle. It's of Rome, and France, England, sometimes more the Balkan these days, and America, also used by Nazi Germany, and so you're at the head of your game. You're doing extremely well, and you have a crown that's maybe a little far right or far left or something, but you're stable and you look good and you're doing well, and you're the queen of your world instead of being maybe as much queen of everyone's world as you once were, like a daily feature on TV. I sometimes you're in the news, sometimes and even the spotlight doesn't hit you. Maybe that news doesn't get carried. So I think maybe that's something that you're dealing with, and I don't think that you're having huge problems here with the Illuminati. I see there's a head sort of game. There's a staff. That staff is a little, staff of Hermes staff. I don't think it's just illusion. I don't think it's just illusion. I think it's mostly delusional, and that's a good thing because once in a while we just think things are a little out of whack. Every time I've ever reported, I think the police department, the guy in front of me, those people are watching me. They're in the car. They're gonna kill me. I think it's wrong that I'm selling drugs. To hurt my children or my family. Wait, I don't have any. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think that's you exactly. Like, it's not just pure paranoia. It's and this image is more the root. You think most of it isn't?
No.
But the Illuminati. Have you ever felt the Illuminati watching you?
I don't believe in the Illuminati.
Yeah, I fought Illuminati, and they surrendered to me once. So if you have problems with them that aren't getting resolved, you can always talk to me. I fought, in London, they were trying to take over segments of society, apparently. Attacking things totally out of their league. And the idea, if you read about the art movement is perhaps the most intriguing one, where they replace people and they want to be that person. And I think maybe you get a few stalkers who are identical and they've never heard of the Illuminati and they're not the Illuminati. So maybe you're just feeling that maybe, I don't know what you call it, stranger danger than stalkers. Anyways, I think you should be at peace and you should meditate and dwell on what you have. And this idea of the rune here is the background looks heavenly, in fact, earthly, connected. The central seal has something like a 20-sided die, and you've got a Jewish star, which is protection, healing, magic, nourishment. And so that you've got a triple sort of point. So I'm reminded of Kabbalah in this image, and the words meta, hippion, or remind me of like something like that, metagrammaton or something. Like they're usually, meta is pretty good. And the rest of the symbols, I'm not too sure of their literal definition. Maybe that was the idea. That there's some words and things that remained in the past, and I think things were sealed up a little more. Maybe you've got more out into life and explored yourself and your magical personality. Maybe experimented with some light or dark minor spells or rituals that opened your mind up a lot. And I don't know, a lot of people are interested in metaphysics, what really works, what really doesn't. They heard their religious ideas for so long, and we saw a lot of people die from AIDS because they followed Christian ethics, which was all, all the gays have AIDS, so you don't sleep with a gay person, and you're safe. These awful things that came up from religion. And our entire generation is very jaded to Christianity. And I don't know if that's related or not. Maybe something out there. I don't know. So I thought, you could hear something from me. Illuminati are based seers, and most seers are not really out to get you. From what I've read, it's the basis was a religious order, and the art movement is like a replacement order where they're trying to replace people. But often I've realized there's a sense of death, like somebody died in high school. Somebody would try to pretend to be them, and that would be their Illuminati friend. I believe that it's a kind of sort of a common practice in Judaism that has probably been discuss too openly with me. You know, I had a Jewish friend at one point. Well, I guess we're still friends. You know, a lover who expressed some of her appreciation for, you know, parts of the Bible I had really interpreted, you know, in that structure toward the more of a Jewish version of the text being similar to our Old Testament, but in some ways different. I guess the reading of ages has always confused scholars and priests and pastors. You know, somebody lives 250 years, what is that? And her idea would be that when that person had died, their daughter or granddaughter would take on the same name. And some people would believe they took on the same soul. To me, that's a little creepy. Maybe it was their religious belief at the time. Maybe it wasn't. So usually seers are pretty good, and we're not trying to replace anyone. And I just, you know, thought that maybe you could use a little help with that scene. So yeah, love to hear from you or whatever. Take care. Anything you want to say?
God bless you. Be careful.
Yeah. Have fun.
Don't mess around with the government. And don't
Peace
mess
out.
around with God.